Bismillah, alhamdulillah. I greet you with the greeting of all the messengers of God, including one of the mightiest messengers that was ever sent of the five, Jesus, peace be upon him. He greeted his followers with this greeting, the greeting of the angels, the greeting of the prophets, and that's the greeting we're greeting you with here today. Peace be unto you. And if that's too much for you, hey, what's up? How you doing? Thank you for tuning into the Dean Show. And we get to interview people who have accepted this wonderful way of life, the call to acquire peace by submitting to the owner of peace, the one God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. So people from all walks of life are racing to Islam. The rich, the poor, the famous, Bible scholars, Christian scholars that are going up higher up. I have had a chance to interview people who have finished with master's degrees, finishing seminary schools. They're coming to Islam. What's going on? This is a phenomenon. They're seeing that all the evidence is pointing to Islam being the truth. And it provides all the proof that it's not a man-made religion, but indeed it is organized by the one God who created this whole universe and everything in it, who's not a man or a woman, but he's the creator of man and woman. Now when we come back, there are also some people who are born with the title Muslim. But it's not because default now you're born with parents who are Muslim that you now are chosen by God and you're just going to enter paradise. You have to come to a conscious decision at one point in your life, just like the person who's born in a Christian family, this person's born in a Jewish family, Hindu family, whatever kind of family. You have to come to a conscious decision that, you know what, I want to submit not to my desires, but to the one who created me. And my next guest, when we come back, Brother Omar is going to talk about how he made that decision coming from a family of Muslims who weren't practicing, and him being a young man who decided to practice this beautiful way of life, Islam. When we come back here in the Dean Show, stay tuned.
Allah, there's only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God, and Jesus was his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice. Brother Omar, how are you doing? I'm going to greet you with those same greeting I greeted everybody with a minute ago. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Eddie.
Peace be with you, my brother.
Peace be with you as well.
Now this is a unique show now because we get a lot of converts, people who were of other faiths. They were followers of the Christian faith, of the Hindu faith, of the Jewish faith, whatever faith, and then they come to a conscious decision and say, you know what, things aren't making sense here. There's some contradictions here, you know what, the proof's not adding up, and then they look into Islam and they say, you know what, this is where it's at. There's a book that's been unchanged, untampered with, the verbatim word of God, the Quran. Some come to it with an analytical approach, scientific approach, and they see all these beautiful and wonderful miracles in the Quran, and then they submit. So those are the stories of those people, but now you have a father who's Muslim, is that right?
That's right.
And a mother who's Muslim.
That's right.
But you weren't always practicing, it seems like just a year ago. So we want to get a little bit of your history. How did you come to where you're at today? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you're doing and who you are.
Well, my name is Omar, first of all. Now, I grew up in Chicago. So, you know, I have a very similar history to anyone who's living in Chicago. You know, I'm not into a super rich family, not a super poor family.
Middle class?
Just another guy, yeah, middle class, you know, middle class. And with parents and family who doesn't really practice Islam, it's, you know, it's always been, I always knew I was Muslim, but I never really knew why. You know, we have a lot of people who are born into faiths, but they only because they call themselves this because their parents are that. You know, they're a Christian because their parents are a Christian. They're Hindu because their father is a Hindu. And in Islam, we have the same problem. We have people who are Muslim because their fathers are a Muslim. You know, and that is a problem because you get people who then represent the true Muslims who don't really know much. You know, they don't really know what their religion preaches or the basic theology of their religion. And so the way I really, for me, you know, a lot of people when they come to a faith, they kind of have, maybe it's in a tragedy, they lose a family member or some big thing, and then they have only God, right? They had nothing else to turn to. With me, it was actually quite the opposite, because I, in fact, was very happy with the life I had. I had no reason to, I didn't need God. You know, I had everything. I had my own apartment, I had a car, I had women, I had everything. You know.
So at what age is this?
This is when I first got into college. So
Okay.
I'm 18 years old.
Now, college, some people just go for the experience now. This is where, you know,
Some people just go for the experience.
people get away from the family and now they just let loose.
Yes, and that's what was about to happen to me.
Okay.
Because, you know, I had roommates, and roommates influence you, you know,
Yeah.
on a lot of things. And one thing they wanted me to do, you know, let's go to the clubs, let's go to the bars, let's go meet these women, right? Bringing women into my apartment all the time. And I was always kind of saying no, but it got to the point where I'm like, well, wait a minute, why am I saying no? Because I'm a Muslim. Why am I a Muslim? You
Now
know?
you're starting to question.
Now, right. Why should I keep following these rules when I could be doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and so.
But did did your family instill some of the good Islamic
Yes, because
morals
right.
in you?
Because my family doesn't drink, they don't smoke, they don't eat pork, things like this. You know, basic. I mean, I don't come from a bad family. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But nothing was ever pushed. You know, I was never given a reason not to do things. I was just told, we don't do it, so don't do it. You know, and I kind of went along with the flow. But when you get to be 18, you go to college, things change, and you kind of, I mean, for any person, I think you kind of question, why am I living the way my parents told me to live?
Why am I not drinking? Why am I not smoking?
Right.
Why am I not chasing girls?
Right, exactly. And these things were all readily available to me. You know, I didn't have to go out and find them. And so I thought, well, let me just look into Islam here. But I didn't look into it trying to find a reason to believe. I looked into it trying to find a reason for it to all be nonsense.
So then you can go ahead
Right,
door, go with the friends to the club now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find a reason why I can say, look, there, it's all fake, now I can go with my friends, right?
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, I like to think of myself as being a sincere person, you know, an honest person. And when I read about, I'm a man of science, first of all. I don't believe in anything superstitious. I don't cross my fingers to be lucky, you know. I don't do any of this kind of stuff. If I can't see it, I'm not going to believe it. That's just not how I work.
Yes.
And so I thought, if there's going to be a real religion, you know, if there's going to be a God, the proof of this God has to be extremely obvious, right? I mean, the very nature of God is He's merciful, He's loving. What kind of God is merciful and loving, but then says, well, maybe I exist, maybe I don't, you know, doesn't give any clear evidence? This is kind of a contradiction in and of itself. So I'm not going to believe something that's not obvious. If it's not clear and if it doesn't hit me over the head with just sheer obviousness, I'm not going to believe it, you know. And I'm a man of science. So when I first was looking into the Quran, you know, this holy book that we Muslims seem to be following, I'm asking people, you know, what makes this book so amazing? Why is this book different than the Bible, you know, or the Torah or anything else? And a lot of what I was hearing was the linguistic miracle, right? The way it's written. Well, I don't speak Arabic, so I didn't look into that very much. The other thing I kept hearing was the scientific facts in the Quran that no one could have known at the time of the Prophet. And so I thought, you know, okay, what are these facts? You know, what can be in this book that was not known at the time?
Yes.
And I'm telling you, Eddie, when you look at what's written in the Quran, I mean, you put all the other miracles aside, the prophecy that's come true, the way it's written that I've now come to understand. You just look at the scientific facts when it describes in clear detail the formation of the embryo.
Muhammad could not have known these facts about human development in the 7th century because most of them were not discovered until the 20th century.
When it says the earth is the shape of an ostrich egg, you know, I mean, I read that and I thought, why that's how the earth is shaped, and
It's not just circle.
It's
There's
not
a
just circle.
unique shape to the earth that matches an ostrich egg.
Right. And, this is something at the time of the prophet, peace be upon him, we have to remember everyone is thinking the earth is flat.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now, this guy says, no, it's actually not flat. Not only does he say it's not flat, he says it's shaped like an ostrich egg. Out of all the eggs to choose, he could have picked a chicken egg. He could have picked a fish egg. Why does he pick an ostrich egg?
So this is that shape, how it's designed, the look, if you would compare it to a tennis ball or to a football or to an ostrich egg, this is how it would resemble more so. And this is what you're seeing now.
And this is what is in the Quran, 1,400 years ago. I mean, this is just one of the, who could have known that, first of all? Who could have known that? Some say, okay, the prophet, maybe he's really smart, maybe he was an astronomer, maybe he figured it out, or maybe he was just lucky, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, that's just one thing. What about the hundreds of others? What about the formation of the embryo? What about the water cycle? All these things that are written, and not just, they're not just talked about in broad, sense. I mean, detailed. I mean, these are things that most modern scientists, who when they see it, they have no choice but to believe as well. Maurice Bucaille, I know he was one of the most famous scientists in biology, and he converted to Islam because of all this.
He was that French scientist.
He's the French scientist, yeah, and he converted to Islam. He's written a book, the Quran, the Bible, and science, and I mean these are facts that are bringing not just, like you say in your show sometimes, car mechanics. They don't just bring those kind of people to Islam, but real intellectual people who are sincere are now coming toward Islam because they realize there's not really a way this could have been written by, no matter how smart this man was, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there's no way he could have known that.
There's no way he could have known that. You're figuring this out. You're using your mind. You're taking a scientific, analytical approach, and we're going to come back to hear more with our brother Omar. We'll be right back.